Okay guys, so just real quickly I wanted to go over my current pedal board setup that I'm using for worship at our local assembly. Nothing too fancy here. Just want to show you what I'm using, and nothing else that's been good for me to go back to later and see maybe how things change, and if I need to go back then I'll know what I was using. So nothing too fancy, like I said. Here's my dry tone. I say dry, but I have my reverb pedal by MXR initiated on the room setting with the knobs at 12 o'clock position, because that's typically where I always start with. I don't use the reverb on my amp unless it's just a little bit of spring, and I don't use the reverb on my Boss ME50 either. Instead of going over a bunch of settings though, I'm just going to kind of show you exactly how I would use it in a typical worship setting. So my overdrive isn't really too over the top. It's just enough to add a little bit of lift, and also the higher strings get a little bit more grit to them. Like I said, nothing too over the top, but I'm going to go ahead and record a loop real quick just to kind of show you how I'd use different aspects of these pedals together. So, real quickly. Okay, now I'm going to throw in some of the MXR reverb pad. So I'll use this a lot of times to just add ambient, like layers. Okay, so when I'm using this, typically the Donner Eternal Bind, typically I'm using it as more of a delay pedal. I don't normally use the looping feature during worship, but I want to show you why I prefer this pedal. For one, it's got all of the different tape, digital, analog, ping pong if you're wanting to run stereo, pan. Then it's got a mod setting that's really cool. I love tape though, simply because it hides and tucks itself away just below your playing. And with every instance of the repeat, it actually gets dirtier, which is cool too. Now with digital, you'll notice it starts to kind of ride over the top of your playing. It's not that it sounds bad, but it just doesn't necessarily sound like what I would like. In a worship type setting, you're wanting each instrument has to blend very well, and with the digital setting it just does not do that. Now analog is nice, but it's a lot darker. which is okay, but when you're trying to inhabit a certain space within your band's mix, and the bass guitar typically has the low end as well as the kick drum, you don't want to necessarily be too dark. But so I really love this tape setting for that. And when you use the tape setting alongside with that reverb, just has a beautiful sound to it. So the delay that I'm using on the Boss ME50 is good for your, if you want to throw them in there, but I mainly use it for the swells. Also, when I'm doing swells, I like to typically use the overdrive. It just makes it poke out. So that's just about it. I mean, nothing too fancy, but it definitely does the trick, and you have just enough of an arsenal here to where you're not getting too carried away with effects and things of that nature, but you have just enough to add to and not take away or detract from. One other thing that I will cover very quickly is the fact that the ME50 also has something that is really cool, especially for the type of the style of worship music that we play. We play a lot of gospel, and with the wah pedal, so that kind of adds to that. Also, another really cool thing that I love to do is take this down to -1 octave. Now this comes in handy whenever your bass guitar player is not present, or maybe they're doing something else that night and you need a bass guitar. So the cool thing is, with the pedal in this position, you can play normal. You can kind of add a little if you need to. However, if you need a bass guitar, you just slap that bad boy forward and so yeah, many different uses for this in a worship type setting, and I think all three of these pedals honestly are they're not looked at near enough, and I chose them because they're cost effective, they work well together, and they just simply they do what they need to do. So like I said, this is not real in-depth or anything of that nature. If you want to look at the other videos that I've done one on the Boss ME50 where I go into a lot more of the effects that's involved, and I've also done one here on the Donner Eternal Bind, and I'm going to be doing one here in the near future on this reverb pedal, but I need a certain cable in order to make use of its stereo capability so you can see the full spectrum of it. I may go ahead and do one without, just to kind of get it out there, but this pedal is absolutely amazing for the price that you pay. I could not afford a Strymon Big Sky, so this thing was the next best in line. I know I'm going to have a lot of haters on here talking about how it's not, but got a lot of great reverb settings, and then this here is just by itself. The cool thing is you can set this to, like, let's say a lot of bass frequencies in the song you're playing. Set that to the right, you get more of the highs. Say you're playing a song that predominantly is not so much in the lower regions. You can turn it back this way, and now you get more of the lows. Alright guys, so like I said, just real quick video, wanted to go through kind of what I'm using for worship right now. If you have a combination that you like, and you have a video here on YouTube, tag me in it. If you have a Facebook page or something like that, or you just have a personal video you'd like to send me to show me what you're using, I'd love to see it. I'd love to know exactly what you're using. And please, don't send me one of those pedal boards that's like the 16, 17 pedals and there's big skies and El Capi stands and all that $780 boutique pedals on there. I'm looking for something that can enhance this or even make it better with, you know, on a budget for worship guitarists. So if you have anything like that, please kick it down my way. I'd love to see it, and I will talk to you all later.